Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Enter the Labyrinth podcast. This time I'm joined by Xenulous, aka Logan, who's here for the first time, as well as Wonderland and Noimnot. And I think the biggest thing coming up this week in Lorcana is obviously set championships. Basically, the entire month of July is just going to be filled with set championship tournaments. So I figure we'll start talking there about what we may or may not bring. And I'll throw it over to Wonderland first.
What I may or may not bring, I'm not bringing red blue. That's for sure. It's an okay choice, but my meta, I played locals the last week, and I played red purple 3 times, and then I played the mirror once, and I was playing amber steel, which is super fun. I might play it just because I really like playing the deck, and just pray and pray and pray I don't play against red blue at all. Like, please, please, please. Or if I want to try hard, I might play green steel. What about you, Logan?
I mean, I genuinely think I'm leaning either green steel or blue steel. Uh, got a lot of reps on it before Chicago, so still feels pretty fresh, and I don't think it's a bad pick. But then the ever-present green steel, I turn 2 Bucky, win the game is so tempting.
Just cheese people out.
I mean, is it really cheese when it's just what you're supposed to do? I feel like a Ruby Amethyst player like Kindle, the more cheesy play is turn 1, turn 2 Flynn, turn 3 Sisu, turn 4 Castle.
If
Okay, bro.
if the question is what's more cheesy, turn to Diablo or curving into Castle, I'm gonna say Diablo's the cheesier play, but that's maybe just my opinion.
Absolutely not. Diablo's so fair and balanced, man. Come on. Every deck has an answer to him now. Have you not seen?
Yeah, because if
Diablo's
they
just
don't, they
Dark
lose.
Confidant. Diablo just draws 1 card a turn. Maybe more if your opponent draws a bunch. Flaversham draws 2 cards. Castle
Yeah,
draws like 8 cards. I mean, Diablo's better than Castle, but Flaversham is better than Diablo.
I don't know, bro. Have you not seen the new red blue lists on Dreamborn? They're running that new Pegasus card, the 3/1 evasive. He
doesn't
does
I
two
answer.
don't
things.
think.
He shuts off Flynn and he kills Diablo.
Does he? Are you sure Diablo just doesn't sing Rage or Storm and like kill it on the
No,
spot
man.
like almost all the
We
time?
discarded that song so we could play Diablo. We don't keep that in our hand.
Oh, okay. You should tell that to my opponents who always have it.
How about you, Kendall? What are you playing?
Red purple.
Always red purple.
Yeah, I'll play some red purple. It's the only deck I own, so it's only the deck I care to play. I'll play green steel if I can borrow it, like at 1 or 2 maybe, just to feel something. But yeah, I'm down to play some just heads up Lorcana.
What exactly are you trying to feel by playing Green Steel, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, seriously.
Just see
Your
what
opponent's
it's like.
pain.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think you can get in the mindset of a discard deck after you've been playing, the control I draw all the cards deck.
You still
I
get
just
to
don't.
draw cards with Diablo.
It's not the same. I mean, is it really the same feeling to play Diablo on 3 as it is to play Maleficent on 3?
It's a much
It's
better
better.
feeling to play
It's
Diablo on
better.
3.
It's
I
better.
wish Diablo was purple.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
play
they
red
ban it.
purple. I think the deck's gotten more popular the last few weeks. Since Chicago, honestly, I think it's just picked up more. So I think it's a fine choice. It'll probably be the most popular in set champs. Like that in red blue probably would be the most popular in your set champs. So
Isn't red purple still like by far the cheapest meta deck at the moment?
it is. Um,
Because like all the new cards are, other than like King Undisputed, are like commons and under, right?
Flynn and Sisu
we
are.
have Flynn and Sisu. Like Flynn's a super rare. I think Sisu's a regular rare, but they're still like really cheap. I think the cards have just
Flynn
kind of
has
gone up in general because that wasn't that much of a expensive ad, I think, to Red Purple. But when I look on Dreamborn, it looks like the price for Red Purple's like almost doubled. Like it was like basically almost $100. Now it's like a little over $200. I think just
Flynn's came out at like a quarter, and they're like 5
yeah,
right now.
whatever. I guess that maybe the scraper for Dreamborns might be using TCG Player, so the prices in general
And
for Lorcana cards have gone up.
in all the staples across the board have kind of like all of the non-legendary staples across the board have gone up in price, basically. Flynn's, Rabbits,
Maui, like even Maui's a regular rare and it's
Maui's,
like
B-Prep.
$13,
I
$15
was
or
gonna say
something
B
like
prep
that.
as well. Yeah.
The foil of the playable cards too. Like foil one jump, I think is like $8+.
Yeah.
Regular Fishbone Quill is 10.
Yep.
So like the big cards that people were like, oh, it's a regular rare, whatever. Like I traded away Fishbone Quills at 25 cents, and when I made the trade, I was like, this card's insane, but I don't play blue. It was in set 1, and I'm like, I'll just buy them on TCG Player for a quarter. Whatever. Like a week later, they're $2. And I'm like, well, what? Fine. I pulled the trigger. I was so happy I bought them eventually because now they're $10. It's just like I would not have wanted to spend $40 on 4 Fishbone Quill, which you might not need to now. We could talk about that now or later that some of the red blue decks have been cutting back on Fishbone Quills.
Yeah, sure. We can the Great Stone Dragon situation. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
I
I did
personally don't
play.
like it.
You don't like cutting on them, or you don't like the dragon, or both?
I don't like Great Stone Dragon personally. And maybe I'm just not playing into the correct matchups. Like if you're playing against Green Steel, I think it's pretty insane because you just get free ink for it. But it feels like in every other matchup, it's just so slow. Like if you play Great Stone Dragon over Quill into red purple, like you just kind of immediately do nothing.
Yeah, I get why people are trying it because one thing, I've played a lot of blue steel, I've played a lot of red blue. Blue steel is definitely way better with Fishbone Quill because you can draw so many more cards with a whole new world and stuff consistently that really enable Fishbone Quill. Fishbone Quill is actually awkward in a lot of hands with red blue. Like if you don't have Flaversham, Fishbone Quill is pretty mediocre in that deck. I mean, you need to be ramping, but it's like kind of hard to go -1 card to do it. So I get why people want to add Great Stone Dragon, which is like, plus card advantage versus the minus cards that Fishbone can be. But yeah, it's definitely less consistent. You can't just like slam it on 3 after playing no characters and you know ramp to B prep in 2 turns like you can with Fishbone. So um, I don't know. You could maybe play Split. I don't know if those decks are playing like more characters early on that they're hoping to get in the bin, but I'm not
Sailor,
surprised.
who most people look to when coming to blue red.
Mhm.
His most recent list I found online that I was playing on stream yesterday was only running 3 Fishbones and no dragons. And I think I drew them twice in all the games I played, and I inked them both times
Like I said, it's
because of the situation.
yeah.
But
Fishbone
like,
is not a
and
slam
I'm a
dunk in blue
Fishbone
red.
believer.
It's always been awkward for me. I know, like if you have Flaversham, then Fishbone is insane in blue red. If you're against blue steel, then it's obviously very important. But it is like kind of like you don't want it against green steel pretty much ever. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I brought up. Like in Green Steel, I for sure think Great Stone Dragon is the better choice. So if you're going into a field where you're expecting a lot more of that as opposed to blue steel or red purple, like I think that's the obvious choice because you're going to get more value in the long game. But I don't know.
I
Like
could see an argument that Dragon is better than Fishbone Quill against Red Blue. If you're playing a grindy long game,
it can be for sure.
and
yeah,
like your Flaversham is just a 4 cost draw 2 card, right? It's like almost guaranteed to get brawled. They're not brawling anything else, and then later in the game, it's getting Medusa'd. You don't really have other targets for those that they want to be using. So like you're gonna run out of cards that you can't really fishbone. That like the dragon could end up being better in the long run there. Because I know in set 3 I was trying out Heart of Tefiti, and I
Same.
found that was insane against red blue
It was.
or red purple, because it was just you were drawing 2 cards a turn basically. You just stopped inking on turn 5 or 6 because you already had so much ink from your other ramp, and then Heart just kept you going. And you're like, okay, it's free ink every turn.
Yeah, I mean, you said red purple, but I actually think the mirror it could also be a very similar
Oh
situation,
yeah,
like with Heart of Tefiti, just the Ruby decks in
insane in
general.
red. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's got legs. I wouldn't be surprised to see people play a split of the two. I think going to like 4 Greatstone Dragons is insane to me. I don't know
They
about
don't
that.
stack
Ain't
very
that
well, I
good.
don't think.
It's Midstone Dragon.
Ooh.
I think the list that made top 8 in Chicago had a split of Dragon and Quill. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously there's merit to it, and like maybe running both is the answer, just so you have the option depending on what matchup you have, and you can just hardball it in
He,
for what you're looking for.
I'm pretty sure it's Thomas. I could just be wrong. And if I am,
Tomas.
he'll put some sad face emojis on Twitter at me if I did it wrong. I'm sorry. He got the coolest Mickey, number 13. That is insane. I'm super jelly. Not only because it's a Mickey, but that's my lab number. I don't know if we've officially said what our jersey numbers are
What?
yet, but
I thought that was my lab number.
We have jersey numbers?
nah, bro, I claimed that one.
What if we're just all 13?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it's just
There
a
were
team
your
number.
numbers claimed.
There was
Maybe
a red blue list that top 4'd in CCS 10K as well, but it just played Greatstone Dragon, didn't play any Fishbone Quill.
but Thomas, he was on Lorcana, he was on Lad with Breezy and RMB, and he had said that he feels in the mirror the dragon is better. And he had said that in the mirror when his opponent played Fishbone Quill, he was like, "Ooh, I just got a 5% increased chance to win this game,"
I could see it for sure.
which
Yeah.
is interesting. Like he did very well, but my experience was that like an early Fishbone Quill I normally won. But that could have been correlated that I just always had the Flaversham. And so like an early Flaversham plus Fishbone is what you want to be doing, right? And that was set 3, so you didn't have brawls. There's less cards that immediately answer to Flaversham. So like it's quite possible I'm just not up to par with my red blue playing. And I haven't personally tried out the Great Dragon yet. So I'll probably do that this week actually.
I'm sure it's situational. Like, Fishbone lets you do things like uh, an early dime, which is very good in the mirror. It's like it's going to depend a lot. But if you're on like the Grammatala, how far I'll go kind of plan, I think Greatstone Dragon might be better there. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But okay, let's jump back to set champs. So as far as what I'm playing, I don't know. I'm gonna play probably a bunch of random stuff. I just in paper tested Speci's, I guess, purple steel mid range, like aggressive mid range deck with 1-drop Maleficent and 3-drop Tinkerbell, as well as the 5-drop Floodborn Bell. And I thought that deck was pretty good. I think actually has decent legs just in the metagame as a pick, depending on what you expect to play against at set championships. There were a couple cards I didn't like so much. The Bells were pretty mediocre. The 1-drop Maleficents were pretty mediocre. I don't know what I would change, but I think I might play that deck. Otherwise, I might play blue steel, might play red blue, might play red purple. And I think, at this point, my plan is I'll probably play 3 or 4 set championships. I'll probably play a different deck every single time, and then hopefully spike one here or there. If I lose 2, I'll probably have to like go try hard mode and then go in the tank and really think about what I think the best deck is and try to make sure I get like 1 Ursula so I don't have to hang my head in shame. But I think right now it'll be fun to just sort of play a bunch of different decks, get a feel for the format. I don't have to test for Texas because I'm not going to Texas, so I don't feel the pressure to like pick a deck and stick with it at this point. I know some people maybe if you're going to the Lorcana Challenge in Texas, then there might be some, I guess, pressure to practice whatever you're planning to play there.
I mean, for me personally, yeah. We're like, what, right at 2 weeks
Yep.
away from Texas now.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so yeah, like I've more or less pigeonholed myself into 2 decks. I've really just only been playing Green Steel and Sapphire Steel. Um, Still not decided on which one I am leaning more towards. They're both very powerful, but yeah, I don't have the luxury of just like deck hopping when I'm so close to Texas.
If only there was a digital client you could just jam games on forever and
There is. It's called Tabletop Simulator. Get some
ever.
friends.
Well, oh, friends. Whoa, who has friends? No, I require a client to give me strangers to play against because people don't like me. I don't know why. I'm just a terrible person.
I think that's
Mm.
like something we can touch on, like how we've
How bad of
been.
a person I am.
Oh no, absolutely not.
You bring up a good point there.
When we think about it. But no, how we've kind of transitioned. Me personally, I've been trying Tabletop Simulator. That's how Humble and I did a lot of our testing for our set championships video. Obviously, it's not the same. There's a learning curve. You really have to get, and it's not too hard. Like you watch a video and you get the gist of it. So like the more you do it, the faster you get. But obviously, it's not automated. Um, so it's good and bad because it forces you to do the triggers like you would as if you're playing in person. But when I was at work last week, I ordered my webcam setup. It actually got here the day I got back from work. So going forward, I think that's what I'll be doing is playing webcam games. I would rather I would rather do that, honestly.
Gonna get you on my stream one of these days. Jam a
Oh,
bunch of
absolutely.
games. I
Because
definitely found.
I've seen you wonder, right? On stream, you've been playing
Yeah,
a lot of webcam games.
well, a lot. I've just started streaming again, and we're doing the webcam. But I found playing against like a buddy or a teammate or either or was way more pleasurable than playing random games against strangers. Uh, the opposite of what I was saying earlier. But it's
On Real Play Network.
yeah. I mean, no shade on the people I played; they were fine and very pleasant people. But like, I don't know them, right? So I have to pay more attention on making sure they're not just webcam cheating. I mean, I didn't think they were, and I honestly wasn't paying too much attention. But like trying to stream and do that and like chit chat, it was even easier to make mistakes doing that than it was playing a digital client
Mm.
and streaming at the same time. So like that's kind of annoying. But while playing with a buddy, it was like more casual in tone. So like I felt like I could relax more on the game with my buddy and like pay less attention to what he was doing unless it was like with my cards. Just a better experience in general, more pleasant.
Any webcam games, Kendall?
No, well, no, but so I want to wonder, like, how many webcam games since Pixelborn's been down do you think you've played?
Oh,
20?
under 10?
Under
Oh,
10?
okay.
Like
Okay.
I streamed like 2 days, right? Like, and I was only able to get like 3 or 4 games in each day.
It's slow. It's so
Like,
slow.
So the point I want to make is that no, I have not been playing webcam games. I have been playing Pokemon online, and I have played 500 games in 2 weeks.
well,
So
you also played like the first 300 games in a day and a half.
don't say that out
You,
loud.
I mean, you have a superpower,
I'm
and
just,
like, I
I'm
have the
just
same
saying.
power. I haven't activated it. I don't want to hyper
Yeah,
focus that hard.
I'm just trying to make the point that it it's
Far
great
less.
that we have that. Like people need something for people that can't get out. But just the sheer amount of games that you can get from playing something online as opposed to like jamming webcam games. So yeah, I haven't played any online games. I haven't downloaded Tabletop Simulator yet. I have enough events this month with all the set champs in Dallas, I'm not really getting an inch to like, get get a webcam set up and play that way. I'll go out to leagues. And I've also just been doing a lot of coaching, so that takes up a lot of my time. Still no webcam games, but yeah, I've just been playing Pokemon. I guess that'll help me keep my Lorcana prowess. I'm going to Pokemon locals tomorrow. Like saying I got my deck.
Oh, let's go.
It's,
Yeah. But yeah, no, this isn't a Pokemon podcast. It's supposed to be a Lorcana podcast.
Not
yeah,
yet.
not yet.
This is a Labyrinth podcast. Hold
Yeah.
on. This is a Team Labyrinth podcast. It just happens to be we mostly focus on Lorcana, and 99.9% of our viewers are here for your gorgeous face, and then the 0.1 want Lorcana, and that's who we're catering to.
Mhm.
Um,
But yeah, so again, no webcam stuff for me yet. After this month, maybe it looks a little different, but I have plenty of stuff for this month. Like if, obviously everyone has all set champs every weekend, and then if you're going to Dallas, the Europeans have Bakum actually starting in like, I don't know, 5 hours or something, 5 or 6
oh
hours
man,
from
Yeah.
now recording this.
That's exciting.
So yeah, I don't like messing around with that stuff. So if I don't have to, I'm not I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I think once we get you Tabletop Simulator, and after a day for you, probably after like 2 hours of playing with it, you'll get like you can set up a lot of shortcuts. You can set them up so like you can press a key and it jumps you to look at their graveyard, a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I think once you get to that, you can jump through games. But it has this like the same issues with webcam games as you just can't find people to play
Yep. Yeah.
consistently. So it does create this like we have to make a date to play type thing, which can be tough. It did actually seem to be working pretty well for me though. Actually, like a lot of people want to play, which is cool.
Yeah, I haven't tried Tabletop Simulator. I've done some webcam games. I spent some time getting a webcam set up and building decks and played a few webcam games. I think it's good. I think it's a good way to get practice, especially if you have no other choice, if you don't have locals near you or it's inconvenient to go to locals because you can go to Real Play Network and pick up a game most times of day. I think that, as far as getting
And Pixelborn Connect.
and Pixelborn Connect, which I haven't tried. Is that up and running? Has anyone tried that?
I
I've
think
not.
it's running,
Okay.
but
Well,
mine didn't work when I tried.
okay. So I haven't
Like
I haven't done that, but
user error.
I have played Real Play Network, and I think it's fine. I think it's good, especially if you have nothing better to do. But it's tough in that you have to wait. Like sometimes you get in the queue and you do have to wait. 5, possibly 10 minutes just looking for an opponent, and then when you do find an opponent, you kind of have no idea how good they are. They have an MMR which like rates you, but basically you're going to get paired against the next person who clicks the button to join the queue, and that could be someone much much better than you, much much worse than you, like you don't know, and you don't have the large player base that Pixelborn had to match people up with at least approximate skill levels. Obviously at DGen hours it was not always the best there either, but it's akin to locals, I guess, where you're gonna get paired up against someone basically completely random, and that can be frustrating if you're looking for like really high quality testing games where you might end up spending 50 minutes playing against someone who doesn't really have any hope of ever beating you because they just haven't played that much, which is fine. You can still think through your plays, but it is hard to get like testing practice as far as like how good is my deck against the meta when you're playing against jank or whatever. So there's that. And then I think there's the issue with like cheating. If you want to cheat on a webcam game, it's extremely easy. I've heard some discussion about possibly setting up tournaments with webcam games, and I'm just like, I have no interest in playing in a tournament
Good luck.
in a webcam game because it's so easy to cheat, and I would hope people don't do it because why? You're not playing for anything. But look, I've seen people, cheat online in chess all the time. Like there's nothing there either if you're just randomly playing games on chess.com or whatever. So people will cheat. There's no question that some people on RPN are cheating. There's no way to avoid it. It's just not hard to have 5 cards sitting next to you that you pull into your hand when you draw if you need them, and there's nothing anyone could ever do to catch you because it's off camera. So yeah, it's a thing. I wouldn't want to play a tournament there, but I think if you can get your friends to like play webcam games, or playing tabletop simulator with buddies of approximate skill level, that's probably the best way to get practice. It's just, yeah, it's not as easy as like, oh, it's 11:30 p.m. I'm not tired yet. Let me just go queue 5 games against whoever happens to be online in Pixelborn. You've got to.
We were spoiled.
We were, for sure.
Oh,
There's
for
no
sure.
question. So I think
Like,
for us it's not so bad. We have each other. We can easily pair up and do whatever and get good testing games. Your opponent's good and not going to cheat you there. But yeah, if you're just a person trying to you know interact with the community, practice your deck for set championships, it's a lot harder than it used to be, especially if you don't have locals.
Get those people on Real Play Network that want that sweet RPN MMR.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like, I don't know. I was always proud of my Pixelborn results. So I think if you do well on RPN, like there is some pride there. I don't want to detract from that. I think that
Oh no,
if
like I absolutely agree. I think,
yeah,
if you're legitimately getting to the top of the RPN ladder, like it's something to be proud of. I'm just saying, like you were talking about, that's one of the incentives to cheat, right? Like
right,
somebody who may want to climb that ladder, it's now just kind of easier to just say, "Oh, well, I've always got what I want in my hand." And
exactly, yeah. You know, it's it is what it is. I don't think it's common, but you just like what's going to happen. There's just no question about it, which is unfortunate. It's also hard to make content that way. Part of the reason I stopped posting things to my YouTube channel is that it used to be so easy to just go on Pixel One, record games, edit them together real quick and throw a video on my channel. And then once I heard that Pixelborn was shutting down, I kind of like lost interest in trying to maintain a channel because I knew that it was basically going to die when Pixelborn stopped, because now on RPN, the games take way longer. Like, it just takes way longer to play games because you have to do everything by hand that a program would have done for you automatically. And then, it's awkward. Like, you can't, I feel bad just recording someone like without their permission, right? So I feel obligated at the start of a match to be like, hey, is it okay if I record
make me
this match for like a
make me feel so
possible YouTube
bad.
video? Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you're like screen sharing. It's like you're already sharing video with a person, so in theory that there's some level of awareness there, but it's not the same as like sharing your desk setup with however many people watch a YouTube video or something. So it's tough. I wish maybe RPN could bake in something to their terms of service, like, hey, people are allowed to record these games. You're sharing your screen. There's no expectation of privacy, but that's up to them. And until they do that, it's very awkward for making content. So I don't know. Tough times.
oh, for sure. I mean, like especially for me, my work schedule changes and moves four on. Like, my schedule's 4 on, 4 off. And when I am home, my nearest store that has locals is an hour and a half away. So
Brutal.
yeah, so I'm just kind of having the web tabletop simulator is really what's been carrying me, and now like the webcam setup, since it is fairly portable, even when I'm traveling for work, I should be able to make that work fairly well, especially if anybody on the team is able to practice one random night, or we just make a. I think we were talking about doing a community night with our Discord subscribers. So hopefully the webcam setup will give me what I want as far as like the outlet of being able to play the game and keep up to date. Um, but other than that, like coaching sessions, I feel like have really been carrying me as far as just theory crafting and walking through turns and walking through like mulligan strategies. I think it's kept me fairly sharp when I, haven't been able to jam games like I used to.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's
Yeah,
something
it's
Kindle touched on
crazy.
actually, right? Like, didn't you say yesterday you've done so much coaching that like,
Yeah, I probably mentioned it yesterday. This happened at the last set champs too, that, you know, I even when we had Pixelborn the last set champs, I didn't have really enough time to practice. I did a lot of coaching, but just talking with all of these people and like you said, like theory crafting or strategizing, stuff like that. Like, at least thinking about the game in more in-depth manner that way. Just yeah, kind of kept me sharp. I was like kind of like just vicariously playing the game through them, even when I was doing like VOD reviews, stuff like that. Yeah, it just helps you stay relevant like in the game. As long as you're thinking about the game. You know, even
I
if you
just
can't play it.
while he's playing Pokemon, like, oh man, this would be a really sick open
Yeah.
strategy for Ruby Amethyst.
I'm curious, do you actually think Pokemon helps you? Or is it just a joke?
No, I made that joke. When I stayed up till like 5 or 6 in the morning playing Pokemon, and then I won that Tinkerbell tournament. I was like, oh, maybe it's because I played Pokemon that late.
I'm telling
But
you,
yeah, your mileage may vary. That's all I gotta say.
I won my first PTQ and a trip to Valencia, Spain by not sleeping the night before a PTQ. I think I also won my trip to Amsterdam. Not this last one, but in like 2015 or 14 or something like that. Also, not sleeping the night before. So obviously, when you're not in your right mind, you develop superpowers and you win. That's just don't sleep
What
No.
in
a
games.
what a fun coincidence. When I made top 8 at the CCS 8K, I did not sleep well the night before myself. So, is it something I would recommend to anyone? Absolutely not. But don't do as I do. It's not healthy. Absolutely get your 8 hours and eat a healthy breakfast and be hydrated when you go into play. Don't be a DJ.
Yes. No, my best results have always come on a good night's rest. I highly recommend sleeping before your major tournaments. Um, yeah, these guys are insane.
You just gotta go goblin mode, bro.
No. It's a huge debuff for me if I don't have enough sleep. Um,
Well, you counter that natural debuff with the +5 alertness from your first Red Bull you drink.
oh
And
man.
then the 5-hour energy you chug between round 2 and 3 like gives you that extra +2 intelligent roll. And then around round 5 you get a -10 to all stats, and you have to eat or drink something right then within 30 minutes or they're permanent. And
All your opponents are wondering why your hands are just like shaking all day.
yeah, they get thrown off. It's like you're in the finals and you're like staring up at like little flashy lights that no one else can see, and like they don't know what you're doing, and you're just top decking like a master.
No. Do
See,
not
it's slightly
recommend.
different for me because I can't have caffeine. So like I just
Oh
when I'm
wow.
tired, I hyper fixate on what's in front of me.
Mm.
And just like all other thoughts go completely out the window. So that's kind of what carries me because I don't have the brain capacity to do anything else but what's in front of me.
Nuts. Well, Kendall, you mentioned that you did well at the CCS 10K, and then I believe you also won. What was it, an Enchanted Tinkerbell tournament like the week after that?
Yeah, there's a enchanted Tinkerbell and also a playmat, the Tinkerbell playmat that goes along with it. Giving away the playmat tomorrow is like the last day. So it'll probably be given away before anyone ever sees this, but yeah, it was like I think it was like 29, 30 people. Couple good Georgia people there. Zan was there and his crew. It was unfortunate that they decided to play Swiss was best of 2. Their choice. The only thing I had to say to that is if you're gonna do that, at least like, announce it ahead of time. I think it was all just kind of assumed it would be played best of 3. Nowhere was it mentioned best of 2 until like we had sat down. We were like pulling out our decks. Some people were already shuffling and right before they start the round timer. So everyone's already paid, everything
Oh
like
no.
that. They're just like,
Oh no.
oh, by the way, it's best of 2. And we're like, huh? Like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, why wouldn't we be? And we're like, what do you mean why wouldn't we be? What do you mean? What do you mean? Um so yeah, so played best of 2. I don't know. I think it was 5 rounds and I went like 2-0-3. Didn't get 2-0'd, got 2-2-0s, and ID'd. I played all the rounds. I didn't like intentionally split the last round. For a few reasons. Not because of my opponent. I knew my opponent was playing green steel. And I was like, let's see if you can just 2-0 me so I can go home or something like that. I was like, either I'll 2-0 you and I'll become first seed, or we split and it's like we ID'd anyways, or you 2-0 me and I get to go home because we're not really playing for much. But yeah. And I don't know. I played blue steel in the top 8. I 2-0'd blue steel in the top 8. Played Zan in the top 4 on green steel. Beat him 2-1, and then we played a red purple mirror in the finals. The other top 4 match was red purple versus green steel as well. So two of the top 4 matches were red purple versus green steel. Both red purples won, and so kind of I made that joke. God, what's the Ant-Man actor's name again? Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Yeah, you've seen that GIF before where he's like, "Look at us," and like, who would have thought? Like, look at us, just 2 green steel players, or 2 red purples just beat green steel in the top 4. Rod just has some gentleman's Lorcana in the finals of this tournament. But yeah,
Gentlemen's Lorcana.
yeah, men of culture or whatever you want to say. I don't know. We're
No.
just
Whoever draws more rabbits wins. Whatever.
Just playing some fair cards.
Some fair
yeah,
cards,
I mean,
he says.
I like to use that as like an example in this past week from coaching that like in the best of 2 rounds as well. So the 10K I didn't play against green steel until my top 8. I won 2-0 against green steel in the top 8. This Tinkerbell tournament, I played it twice in a Swiss. It was 1-1 both times. And then Zan in the top 4 was 2-1. So even if the matchup's unfavored, not completely unwinnable. So there's hope there for red purple. Maybe that's why I'm still gonna play it.
I was about to ask, like, was it just like a comfort pick? Did you really? I mean, you also just said that's kind of the only deck you own, but like, if
Yeah,
you
the
had
only
the
deck I
option
own.
to play something else, would you have made a different choice, or were you just?
I mean, my only other serious choice would have been green steel. I just don't own the deck, so if I find it tomorrow, I'll play it in a tournament. I highly considered green steel after like the Charlie's 2K. I didn't top 8 the 2K, but I also had to enter the tournament with like a round 1 loss since I lost in the top 4 of the 10K. So it was already, odds were not in my favor really. Yeah. And I was like, I should just kind of I think if you want to win the tournaments, no contest is like, yeah, green steel is just the best deck. So, we have 4 decks to choose from and a few on the outside of that as well. But really the front runner is just like green steel and everything's like a little behind that. But yeah,
Red Blue beats green steel.
yeah, it just loses to everything else. I don't know. Then you'll lose to all the red purple players that are psychos
I
and
think
still
Red
playing red
Blue
purple
beats a
cards.
lot of other things except for Red Purple, which is why it sees play. I mean, thus is the rock paper scissors.
Yeah, it's still similar to the last format where it kind of felt rock paper scissors, except that each like rock paper scissors, instead of having like 2 or 3 decks in that one spot, right? It's now you only have like
The
one
green
deck in a
steel
rock paper scissors.
cannibalized.
So yeah.
Well, green steel and red blue are kind of the same peg. They're really close. They both beat green steel and they both kind of lose to red purple. And then like both red blue players think they beat blue steel and blue steel players think they beat red blue, and that's why they play the deck, right? Like each of them think they win. They're like, I'm gonna win the mirror, so this is why I'm playing this one.
That's
and then
madness.
both of them are like, we crush green steel. And then, but I mean, that mindset is gonna be so much more popular now without Pixelborn.
True, but
Like,
some of those people are wrong. The blue steel players who think they beat red blue
Well-
are wrong. I can tell you that as someone who's played a
Well,
lot of
we
that
have
matchup from both sides. There's just no way. I mean, look, you can. It's close. You're playing very similar decks, but do you really think that the Tinkerbell Grab Your Swords side is better than the Medusa Sisu Dragon side?
Maleficent Dragon.
There's just no way. There's no way. I'm sorry. It's just not. I think
Well,
aerial, like if you play
I
aerial, it
played a
goes a long
different
way.
version
But
of Blue Steel. I played a
okay,
different version. I was like combo workshop, and eventually I stopped playing it because it wasn't great. But I felt like it was I could race them
I feel like the
because it was
workshop
like a
decks are
ramp to
even
get.
worse. But
Yeah. Oh, they
and
are.
yeah,
I mean, that's why people don't play them. But I
yeah,
still felt that I was beating red blue, but that could have just been luck. I didn't play a bunch.
or
I lost
skill.
everything
Like
else. So
you're allowed to be better than your opponents too.
yeah,
But
but I'm not
Yeah, I
allowed to
was about to
say
say
I'm
like
better. That
if you're
uh,
RMB on blue steel, then RMB with his confidence, he's like, oh dude, I crush red blue every time. It's easy.
yeah, no, I do think that matchup it's close, but I do think it favors red blue for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting metagame. Shameless plug, Logan, you and Humble released another video on our YouTube channel that went through, I believe, 8 decks that you could potentially choose for the set championship metagame. So everyone should go watch that when you're done here.
Absolutely. Um, like I said, we did a lot of testing on Tabletop Simulator before we put it out. We just kind of like scanned, mainly pulled from Chicago to see like what made day two and what we thought was um, like the most powerful decks. Obviously, the top four made it on there: green steel, red blue, red purple, and blue steel. But then our our tier two picks were green, yellow, the discard one that Pandemonium Heart ran,
Yeah.
uh, Steel Song, because Zach Bivens, he was first seed going into day two, so you can't count it out. And Lorcana Bro still believes in Amber Steel right now, um, and green purple, obviously, it was in the finals. I think it's well positioned. And then Mufasa. I think there were also a few Mufasa decks that made day two. Um, Obviously, Humble's very biased when it comes to that deck. But those were the things we ran games against, and all of them felt solid. All of them felt like they had legs, and they all day two Chicago. So I don't think any of them are bad picks to take to your set champs. I think it's really going to depend on what you think you're going to be running into. Um, I don't know. I genuinely like. I'm of the opinion that I don't think there is just one overall reigning deck right now. If there was, then that would be the only thing that's winning events, right? There are even some top eights where you don't see green steel, and I don't know if that's because there just aren't that many there, or if they are legitimately just getting beat by the other options that you have. Um, I don't know. I think the meta right now is more healthy than some people are giving it credit for. I think there are a lot of options that people kind of write off because it's not one of the top four. But another deck that we've seen, like you were talking about using Speci's purple steel list, that's something that when we were testing for the video, we didn't even consider. And there it is, winning winning the first Ursula
Yeah, no,
set
I think it's
championship.
real. I think it's the real deck. I think it hasn't been worked on a ton this set. I think there's room for improvement. I know if I were going to play it, I'd probably cut the one drop Maleficence. I'd probably cut the bells. I don't know what I would play in place of them. Um, one thing I know Speci complained about people playing 3-drop Maleficent, but for me, the deck as currently configured has 0 3-drops that are just like universally good. Every single one of the 3-drops is very matchup dependent, and I just wanted a 3-drop in my deck that I could just play no matter what was going on. Like it was just always going to be good. I feel like that's one thing that X currently lacking. Um,
Do you
it's
not think the 3-drop Tinkerbell was?
I love the 3-drop Tinkerbell. I think that's the best thing he came up with by far. I think that's something everyone else had overlooked in Purple Steel, and I think he absolutely killed it on 3-drop Tinkerbell. That card definitely overperformed when I was testing the deck, and it's it's way better in practice than it is in a vacuum. Like you read the card, it just does not seem that good. But the fact that you can play it and then like most of your opponents will just not turn any of their characters sideways is kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to overstate how powerful that can be, especially Green Steel. Like Green Steel, they don't want to lose their like Diablo to Tinkerbell coming down and just like wrathing their boards. So they'll quest with the Diablo, and it can really slow them down, even if you don't have the shift line, or like you can just not play the shift line if they're not gonna play into it. Ends up being very powerful, even against like red purple. Just the threat of it, like a 4/5 against Ruby Amethyst is like pretty powerful on turn 4, especially when it comes down and like shoots 2 things. Yeah, the threat is something. Like you play it, you get the threat of it that you sing like friends or something. So I think for sure the Tinkerbell is good, but I don't think it's like universally applicable. Like you don't want to be playing 3-drop Tinkerbell against the Sapphire decks at all. It just does nothing, basically. You know, dies to all of the Ruby removal. It's just very slow. But yes, like you've got Benja, which is good against the item decks, and then you've got Tinkerbell, which is like really good against green steel, fine against like Amethyst mid range stuff. And then, you know, Fox is very like situational dependent on what's on board. For me, I just want like 2 Maleficents in there where I just know they're going to be good every single time. Like if I draw, basically, you know, if you don't draw the exact 3-drop currently that's good in whatever matchup you're playing, it feels like you don't have a good play on turn 3. Which yeah, that came up for me a couple times and was annoying. But I do think overall Purple Steel, it's a legit deck. I think you can improve it. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. It would take, you know, some more work, but it seems well positioned. I think that you can beat the red blue deck pretty handily. I think that you're a favorite against green steel versus a deck like Ruby Amethyst, which obviously is behind on green steel. I think you're pretty close to Ruby Amethyst. You're a very similar deck. And then it's just like you lose a lot of points against blue steel to play this versus Ruby Amethyst, where Ruby Amethyst kind of crushes blue steel. I think that the purple steel deck's like a little behind blue steel, which is unfortunate, but it's a real deck for sure. I wouldn't sleep on it.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, you know, it won the first Ursula tournament, so obviously it has legs. I don't know.
16-person
I feel
content
like
creator event.
do what?
It was a 16-person content creator event.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Still, I mean, there are plenty of good
Had some
players there.
big names in it.
Yep.
Had some big names in it.
I mean, there were some big names, and yeah, you know, size whatever, he still won. So you
But
can't take it away
well,
from him.
that's not what I meant. Although it sounded like it, so I should clarify. um, when you have these really small 16-player events that, and you know who the other players are, it becomes a little bit more about metagaming.
For sure.
Especially because you've already had Chicago. If you already kind of know what they're all playing, you can change what you're going to play. You can build a deck built to beat those. Like if he didn't expect any red purple at all, he's like, or blue steel, he's like, I'm going to build a deck that beats green steel and red blue and loses to everything else. Boom, he did that. He wins. Like I don't know if that was Speci's goal. I haven't played the deck enough to know all of its matchups. I'm just saying, like, this could have been a reason and why they did it. And just people need to be aware of situations in smaller events. It's a phenomenon that happened in Magic the Gathering with Pro Tours, because Tours are much smaller events. So the inbreeding of archetypes and what's good can like really happen. And then so like you can flip and play a card that you don't want to play if like the meta's open. But if it's really small and inbred, like it just like crushes, right? And like that could be what Speci did here, or Speci just pulled like a Talman Purple and was like, check out this archetype people aren't thinking about. Like, boom, get you. Like, also, how many people are gonna just play wrong into Speci playing Purple Steel because they haven't played against Purple Steel in like 6 months?
I mean, it's not the sort of deck that people are going to misplay into. It's very red purpley. It's pretty straightforward, I think. There's not a lot of
So when I
secrets.
picked up Amber Steel to play some locals because I'm like, this is fun. I love Amber Steel. Like, I don't care if I lose. I'm just gonna have a blast. Most of my games I won were because of Rapunzel tricks. Like stuff that I learned in set 1. I'm like
Yeah.
naturally doing and just profiting greatly from because people don't respect Rapunzel anymore because it's not on. They're not thinking about Rapunzel.
Right. Well, I also think, you know, Purple Steel with, you know, people like Kendall over there cutting 1-drops out of their red purple decks. Like, I think the Purple Steel gets better in that matchup, especially. So I think, like, the first thing I would do is cut the Maleficents for Pascals. I do think that Maleficent can be okay if you expect a lot of red blue, but in most other matchups, I'd rather have, like, Pascal. I think Pascal's pretty sweet
Not
against
Green Steel.
Well, I would much rather have Pascal against Green Steel than Maleficent because I can ink Pascal.
I guess you have crab. You have
Yeah.
crab, so Pascal's actually another answer to Diablo.
Well, no crab.
Or you
Just
do-
like I just don't want to play either of them, so I'd rather have the one I can ink. Basically, is how I
Or
feel
you
about
do
it.
the
Well-
secret turn to double Pascal, so when they play Diablo, you just
Madness.
I mean, you wouldn't play the Pascal if you had a crab. I mean, you
Well,
would,
the
right?
deck isn't currently playing crab, and I think it'd be
Really?
hard to fit it in there. Yeah, it's not, and I agree with that choice, frankly. But it's
Wait,
just like
in red, purple, or
purple
purple steel?
steel.
purple steel.
But
Okay, I was referring to red, purple. Sorry.
okay, yeah, no,
Red
I like.
purples aren't playing crab either.
Is that true,
I don't know.
Kendall?
I don't play that deck, but
Yeah.
Yeah, not right now. Kind of given, I think there's like in like the quote unquote stock list right now, I think there's about 4 tech slots, and I would either play like magic brooms or crabs in those tech slots. Yeah, we had like completely cut out the crab, but red purple, since it's more popular now, it's pretty reasonable to play crabs just to help you in the mirror match to combat the
Castle.
castle.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
no one plays around crab anymore. So like in the mirror, yeah, I think it can help. It can have some merits.
Funny how cards undulate like
heard
that.
that here
Like
first.
people play them, and then everyone's playing around it, and suddenly everyone cuts them because it's bad, and now suddenly it's good again because people stop playing around it. It's so funny.
Yeah, there was a wave like that and with Surfer Mini in set 3. See,
For sure.
Yeah.
it was like a wave in surfing.
Oh,
But,
I was about to say everybody was playing.
They like
Everybody
cut
was
the
playing
Surfer
Surfer Mini.
Minis and then they came back, or they were playing them, then they were like completely cut, and then they were like, okay, especially when it came down to like we had to play best of 2 with it, and like, well, now you just need to like win the game. Basically, you can't just dirtle with a bunch of cards. So yeah, then they came back. So crabs were gone. Now I think they're pretty reasonable to add back into your deck, like as 1 or 2 or something like that. Not
when
a
does
4
Surfer
of
Mini
like
come
last set.
back? Never.
Never. I
Is
mean,
she just never ever coming back because of Brawl? Like,
yeah, I mean, Brawl was one thing. At the beginning, it was like people were playing the little Sisu. Sometimes you will
Yep.
run into that little one, the 1/1 evasive. So, and that's mostly like some number in red blue, I think. But
So you also cut out 4 of your 1-drops, right? You're down to 4 1-drops in red purple now.
yeah, currently in like the stock list, it's like 4. And again, like I said, I think at most I probably play like the 2 brooms.
That's
So you could play 6.
I feel like I would play 8, but I'm just crazy, especially after my experience with red purple, where the brooms and Chernobog's followers were both so great because they just cycle. They end up being like 1 ink
Yeah,
to
it's a little harder to cycle broom, right?
yeah,
But
for sure.
it's just a little just currently in the meta, like it's a little less important. It's not a necessity. You're not playing 1-drop into Snake. Like and against Green Steel, if they're playing Little Diablo, normally you're not playing your Chernobog follower anyways. So it's very reasonable against Green Steel. You're skipping 1, 2, and like playing like a Friends on turn 3. So not important in that matchup. I think that Blue Steel and Red Blue are so favored that you could probably not play a 1 or a 2-drop against them, and you still win the game if you just start off by playing Sisu on turn 3. So really, like, yeah, you need a 1 or 2-drop in the mirror match, but you have 4 Flins, you have 4 1-drops, so that's 8. When you played 8 1-drops, you felt comfy. So I don't know.
I've got
The
a
Frank Carson
So-
math is there somewhere that you'll have it after some mulligan.
since you're only playing 4 to 6 1-drops and less 2-drops, would you argue that red purple is going back closer to its mid-range roots? Because it used to be like just straight like end game control, and then it shifted more to like an aggro mid-range bounce, and then it shifted to very aggressive with minis and
Yeah,
whatnot.
you wanted to do
So-
1, 2 mini castle, and
Yep.
now, yes, you might have a slower start, but you do have just Flynn and Sisu enabling like some free wins. I'm not really a fan of Flynn, but it's just kind of how the meta is. That's where we're at. Flynn sometimes gains you 9 lore and looks like the best card in the game. And then sometimes it doesn't do anything, and you wish it was a Cusco, obviously, that at least it was going to draw a card. But yeah, now it's like a little slower again. Yeah, I would agree. But Flynn and Sisu obviously can kind of like
Oh yeah.
can kind of
Against
Yeah.
red
speed the
blue.
game up.
there's no Maldragons either. We're not going to 9 anymore.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's wild. I mean, I feel that for Be Prepared still a necessity right now, but it's just so crazy to me. Like now we don't even have the option to sing it because sets 1 and 2, Be Prepared was a lot more powerful because we were always singing it with Dragon or Ursula.
Oh, I
Um,
know. Oh, it's so
and
bad.
and
It
now
was a
we're just
different time.
now we're straight up just playing 7 mana Wrath, and the format just keeps, it'll get faster and faster. So it got like worse and worse over time. Last set, it was, people were going down to 2. I think some people, I even tested an OB prepared list for Atlanta, and I think actually in the top 32, I played the mirror match and he had no B prepared. So someone top 32'd, no B prepared, red purple in Atlanta.
I
I
mean,
mean, if your
Na-
opponent doesn't know, they just play around it, and you just gain so much from that.
yeah.
Ursula Deceiver and Bare Necessities were huge nerfs to be prepared, I think.
hmm Yeah, it's a weird cycle because now I guess now like they're mostly Ursula U turn before be prepared. Majority of the time they're gonna play Bucky on 2. So
Do you think because of that play pattern that you could afford to play Teeth? There's a local player to
yeah,
me that's like, I beat Green Steel, and he's
Mhm.
got 4 Teeth in his deck, 4 Brawl, 3 B Kings, 4 Medusa. Like he's gearing for it, and he might act like I played one game with him, and he
yeah.
messed up what I had, but
It allows for teeth to be a little better in your hand. The same reason why I think friends on the other side is good, even in your opening hand. Because again, like the majority of time they are playing Bucky on 2, and if they Ursula you on 2, then they didn't play a Bucky. So then they play Bucky the following turn. There's no 1-drop Floodborn, thank God. So
Oh
then
my
like
god.
so like turn 4, if they Ursula you on 2, that you're not discarding another card until like turn 4. Like 2 more turns away at that
so
point, unless if they have Shift Diablo,
So
obviously. But
you're not inking Friends. So like your only song is Friends against Green Steel. You're not inking it. You're keeping it.
yeah, I'll keep it
All right.
because
oh
they'll
man,
Bucky
I
me
would
on 2, and
punish
then
you so hard.
No,
yeah, I mean, it's
I've
not
been
even really a
waffling.
punish though. It's not really even a punish though, because again, like I said, if you're Ursula on 2, you didn't play Bucky on 2. Like you're kind
If
of
I don't have the 3 drop,
I
I
mean,
don't
you're
know.
you're kind of playing off curve at that point.
a
It's the
little.
same mindset of like it's the same concept of getting red blue to brawl your friend or
Yeah.
brawl your Flynn on turn 3. Okay, so now you didn't play a Fishbone Quill, or
Yep.
had you one jumped. If you one jumped on turn 2, you're not playing a Hiram, you're brawling the Flynn. So you're still playing off curve a little bit.
No.
I would still keep it because again, like more than likely they're not going to Ursula you, and it's great if they do. Um, more than likely they play Bucky on 2, and then I'll just hard cast a friends on turn 3.
All right.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find myself only really like I do it sometimes. I do prefer the Bucky. I was coaching someone today and I was like, like if you don't have the Bucky, you still should play the Ursula because like they're not always inking it. Like you could hit the B prep still. Like you need to play something on turn 2 at least.
Yeah, don't
And
skip your
if you're
turn 2.
doing, yeah, if you're playing the Ursula, you get to see if they have the brawl. So you know if they're going to kill your Diablo. You know if you're going to be able to play your Ursula 3 and then next turn be able to double storm, draw some cards, and then commit more. Like, so it's still good there.
Yeah, that's the only issue with the teeth, like you mentioned. It's a little more safe to Ursula, but they obviously, if they see it in your hand, if they start with Little Diablo, they know
Yep.
to Ursula you first before they shift their Diablo. So that's why Little Diablo is just so good. It lets you know it's up in their hand, to give you the go or not if you're going to shift Diablo or wait a couple turns to, because then you can
I
just
would
bait
just
out, play the Ursula 3 on turn 3, and bait out the brawl with that, and then play Diablo. Can't teeth
I
it.
would
So
like to say that I'm pretty sure I was on the Diablo plan since day one. Cut to a meme of Bannable like going over my set review where I'm like it's garbage or something like that. But I'm pretty sure I was like I liked it as a 1 or 2 of in the beginning,
Yeah,
and
I
now it's
definitely did
like
not like one drop Diablo. I still kind of don't like one drop Diablo. I do think people overrate it, but it's definitely playable. It's obviously doing a lot of work for people. So
I think it's a mandatory for of in the Bucky lists.
Well, yeah, because
I
it
do
not
think
only does it
people.
not only does it set you up for the shift Diablo, like it just gives you the information of, okay, what is my opponent going to do the next 3 or 4 turns? Like, what is the script here that I
Yep.
have to play around or try to disrupt? Like, I remember when he was first revealed, and there were a lot of people like, don't play him, play actual good one drops. But I think the knowledge he gives
That
you
was me.
is, I think the knowledge he gives you is like way more important, because then you know if turn 2, the Ursula is going to get you the value you want, or if you're just safe to play the Bucky and continue with your script. I think I saw a couple of people on Twitter today that were really comparing the opening lines of Lorcana and the specific decks to chess, because
Right.
there's a script on the play and on the draw for separate decks of what you want to do and like what your mulligan strategy needs to be. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, a pretty accurate way to look at it. Just to give credit where it was, I think Zach Bivens was one of the people that were looking at it like that. And I mean, obviously, Zach Bivens being one of the best in the game, um,
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
just
Fake news.
happens to make the top 32 in both Atlanta and Chicago. No big deal.
Yeah, I saw that Nicholas posted a tweet that had a screenshot of Braden saying the first thing he said, and then Bivens was also giving a really good point. He's like, these are two very important things that a
Mhm.
lot of people don't think about. Um, I think Bivens' quote was that he does not like Piglet, and he does not like playing cards that require you to be ahead to be good, which I think is a very relevant opinion.
Yeah,
Win more
I would
cards, I
say
guess.
Piglet has a home. It does have a home. It just happens to be that it's not good in the meta at all. Like hyper aggro is just like a joke when green steel is one of the best decks. It's a joke when amber steel is one of the best decks. So like in the last few formats, it's just not been great. When 90% of the field is red purple and red blue, sure, grab your piglets. Like it might actually be good there. But when people are playing storms,
It's very situational. I do like Piglet in general. I like cards like Piglet that let you be super versatile. So I think the coolest thing about a card like Piglet is that it lets you build a mid-range deck and then put like a few of these inkable, super aggressive cards in your deck that if red blue is 40% of your metagame, right? If you have Piglet in your deck, you get to ink it. It's easy ink in most of your matchups, and then against red blue, it just like is one card that can single-handedly really turn a matchup around because questing for 3 on a 2-drop is so insane. So I like cards that are like that are very situational, but also extremely, extremely powerful when they are good. I look at something like, Isabella or whatever, which, not a lot of people are playing. It's hard to find a home for a 5-drop that doesn't get value, but it does also strike me as a sort of card where, you can ink it most of the time, and sometimes it will just come down and win a game. So I don't mind Piglet. I do agree that in a world where every single person on the face of the earth is trying really hard to kill Diablo, that Piglet gets a lot worse. But uh, I think like last set, I thought it was a good idea. When I saw Frank Karsten played Piglet, obviously in his Lorcana Challenge winning deck list, I thought, it's a good idea that we didn't really consider just because it has that versatility. You know, yeah, it's bad in a lot of matchups, but it's also inkable.
I think there was a French event that an Amber Steel list made top 8 or won, and it was similar to Bivens' list, but it cut the Pride lands and was running piglets instead. I played against it once. I beat it in the mirror. I was just playing like the stock Bivens list.
Yeah, I mean it's bad
Uh,
in the mirror for sure.
well, I mean, I don't even think the piglet mattered. It was I did Rapunzel things. My opponent didn't, so I won.
I don't know, like kind of touching on kind of what you said, Vanimal. Like that's something RMB really thinks about when he's building his decks. He happens to be somebody who likes win more cards in the best of 2 format. Like when he's talked about how he approaches what he brings, he wants something that's like, this is going to slam the door shut this game. That way, like there's no, my opponent comes back. So I think there's definitely a place for win more cards like that. Um, but
Play
Piglet
style.
being, yeah, play style, that, and like cards like Piglet, they get very situational, especially like on the draw. It just becomes significantly worse on the draw. Um,
Being
but
inkable's big.
Yeah, I
But
like
yeah,
Flynn.
being inkable is big. Because then you're not hard committed to that every time. And then, if you're on the draw or if you think it's a bad matchup, it's like, okay, well, I can just ink the piglet, play something else, pivot from whatever that game plan was.
See, I like Piglet in decks that have Lilos. I don't think I like Piglet in what Bannable was saying. I don't.
Hmm.
I don't think I want to like. I would want that Piglet to have an ability that made it do stuff in matchups where I wasn't just trying to turn it sideways. Like I would want it to be like +2 lore if you have 2 other characters, or if you have less than 2 characters, Challenger 2 or something like that. So like if I'm not questing, it's killing stuff. Like that's the kind of slot I would want there in that scenario. I don't want just the thing. So I'm more on the Bibbin side there that like but I'm also on the R&B. It's weird. Like I would like it if I'm being aggressive, but like in Amber Steel where to me that's like a Delver of Secrets deck that's like a tempo control mid-range. It's like it's Miracle Grow from Legacy. Like that's what that deck is like to me 100%. And I don't want Piglet in that personally.
That's fair enough. Obviously, not many people have played Piglet. I've never played Piglet in a tournament, but I just think in general, I like cards that are, I think it's okay for a card to be very high variance as long as it's inkable. Like a
As long as
card.
you can ink it.
Well, if a card's a 10 out of 10, if a card's a 10 out of 10, 33% of the time, and a 0 out of 10, 66% of the time, it's actually kind of a sweet card to include in your deck. You,
If
you're
it's
always looking, like, if it's inkable. You need cards to ink anyway. I feel like most of my games, I ink a card that I kind of wish I could have kept because you just can't keep every single card in your hand. So having a card that's easy to ink, I don't think is that big of a downside. And then having it be a slam dunk some of the time, I think is pretty sweet. But yeah,
it's a
obviously,
secret.
yeah,
It's the secret reason why Dragon was as good as it was.
yeah.
Like
So
insane when you play it normally, or it's good card to ink.
Man
Maui.
said was
Maui, yeah.
as it's not now.
Yeah, it's not sadly. I mean, it's not even in red purple. I mean, it's good in
I mean, bro, how many times do you play red blue? That's the turn one ink a dragon, play a popsicle, and it's like the most expensive popsicle I've ever seen in my life. But then you get to what is it, turn 5 when they're actually able to realistically play a
cast
dragon.
one,
It's like, oh
right?
god, this sucks.
All right. Well, everyone here except me is going to be in Dallas, right? You three are all going down to Dallas in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Us and R&B.
Yes.
And R&B. Okay, so 4 members of the team. Not as many as in previous events, but obviously we'd love to see people come say hi, talk to us. We're not that scary. We won't probably be in a giant cluster of us this time since there's only going to be a smaller group. I know I'd heard that from some people. They're like, well, we didn't want to come bother you because like you're in a group of like 7. And we're
We'll
like,
still have a good
whatever.
group.
But
We're gonna be hanging out with some. We're gonna hang out with Talman. We're gonna be chilling with Luxury. All of the 20 lore people. But you should still come say hi, and say hi to them. There's gonna be so many cool people for everyone to come say hi to and meet. I'll probably have some cards. I'll give out signed cards if you want them. People love doing that. Like you want to make someone's day, go up and ask them to sign a card. Like
For sure.
they won't care if you're interrupting them if you're like blowing their ego up. Like
I
Well,
can't
that
sign.
like
Yeah, I'll say come say hi, even if my face looks like this, like just a mean person.
it's his face.
All
And
the
it
time,
will.
yeah,
It will, because
it's
it
just
always
my
does.
face. I'll just say, if you message me and say, hey, I saw you at Texas, but I was too scared to say hi, I'll just block you. I don't want to, you know?
like unironically, the first
Yeah,
time I
that's gonna
met
make you sound
Kendall,
approachable.
the first time I met Kendall in Atlanta, like I was genuinely like kind of intimidated to talk to him just because you have this just resting face that like looks like please don't talk to me.
We
But
all
you
know
are
what it's called, but yeah, I don't know. It's just
I
you are legitimately one of the nicest people I've ever like met in person. And just really fun to hang out with. I think that's been my favorite part of all the challenges actually. The first time the team, a lot of us met in person was at Atlanta, and I, I mean, I don't know if I can speak for everybody else, but like for me, I loved meeting everyone. I thought we all gelled pretty well together. I mean, we got the Airbnb, and I had no issues, staying with everybody and having going out to dinner and things like that. Like it was really cool. I feel like I've found a odd little family in Lorcana that I didn't expect to find. So yeah, no, if you see any of us at events, like please don't be intimidated to come say hi or interrupt us if we're talking. Like by all means, we want to meet more people.
Yeah, and I know RMB's not here, but I can say for a fact that he feels the same way. So come up and say hi to RMB. He loves to meet
You
people as
made
well.
stickers to give
Yeah, he'll
away
probably have
Yeah.
stickers. I don't
Mhm.
have stickers, but Herbie will
I,
have
because you
stickers.
hate people.
I
Yeah.
think we will have Labyrinth stickers actually. I think
Ooh.
Manicore had a good few of them printed out that have QR codes on them for our website.
Manatee will be there.
Yeah, he'll also be there. Another shameless plug. We just released a few new products. We have hand markers and ink marker cards.
Hopefully
So
we
if you're
have some
looking,
with us there.
I think Manicore is bringing the majority of what he had printed with us. But
Nice.
if you want something cool that helps you remember where your hand is, or something to spice up your inking table behind all of your other playable cards, like come say hi. We'll show you something cool.
All right, well, I think that's a pretty good place to end it. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Ooh, woo, love you.